She went from making $3,000 a month to $100,000 a month in 60 days. And we did zero tactical skills, zero sales training, zero. It was all her shit. We did a balancing process. We got to clear on her values, got to living with it. Energetically, that resistance towards that went away. The degree that you resist reality is the degree that you suffer. Because right now, everyone's been the best version of their limited self. We've all got limitations, trauma, wounds, resistance to work through, but that's an infinite game. You're never going to stop that. Let's get you to be right now the best version you can be in whatever capacity you can. So figure out what's important to you and actually do it. Whatever you deem as important, you find. Because if you haven't healed through something, you're trying to avoid it because past hurt creates future fear. So when you have something that was too much and not enough, or a moment in time where there was trauma or a judgment happening, your intuition is trying to actually bring it into balance for you. If you have a moment in your life that you keep thinking of, that's your intuition trying to process it. A lot of coping strategies for what we call high achievers is overcompensating from not being enough. And that can be expressed as entrepreneurship, but that could be an athlete. That could be, it could be other things, but entrepreneurship is generally a vehicle people use to do that. It's like the pain pleasure drivers. They work at the start until they don't. Level of depth of sex and intimacy is such a great measuring stick for where you're at emotionally, with your relationship, with life, with business, with your purpose. How hard you get and how much you penetrate your woman or your partner is a measuring stick of how much you penetrate life.
What are some of the things that people can do to improve their intimacy, connection, and sex in relationships? All right, let's jump into another episode. This is one we've had lined up for a little while. Lewis, welcome to the podcast, brother. Now, for those that don't know Lewis, Lewis Huckstep is his name. He's a performance and fulfillment coach for high achievers. I've spent the last 5-6 hours binging all your content. So I love what you're about. Like, there's so many I saved for my personal growth folder as well.
Thank you, man.
So I'm keen to get into all of that. Now, again, some of the stuff Lewis spends a lot of time on working with clients. Now he's coached over 4,000 clients around personal performance, fulfillment, focusing on the areas, healing, business, and relationships. So I'm really excited. We're going to dig into all of that. As well, shout out coming up next month. You've got a book coming out. So congratulations.
Thank you, man.
The Inspired Life Method comes out on Friday, the 18th of October. So you get value out of this episode with Lewis. Make sure you follow him, follow along with that. That book will come out in about a month time after we drop this pod. So how was the process writing the book?
Man, if you want like instant gratification, don't write a book. It's like I think I've done almost now 1,400 hours of writing, editing, preparing for it, and like you see no results. Like I haven't even posted it yet, so it's been a very good for someone with the gift of ADHD as well. Like I literally sit down to write, I throw my phone to the other side of the room.
You have to,
so like
has to be just if it's 2 meters away and you can't reach it, it's a big difference.
So I literally toss it to the other side of the room, but it's a good practice of patience, of discipline. As a coach, as someone who does teaching or coaching as a career, it's been really beautiful to be able to distill your thoughts so precise, because you'll notice, depending on where this podcast goes, like when I teach, I'll generally give like 5 different analogies, stories, and I'll go all the way off to bring it back. You can't do that in a book. You have to be like, how am I going to teach this with the shortest amount of words, but enough to get the point across? So my teaching of what I teach has gone up through the roof. So regardless of how the book goes, which you can't necessarily control, like my coaching has gone through the roof. So that's been a big benefit. But yeah, if you're looking for quick, fun, immediate gratification, don't write a book. So.
I mentioned literally 5 minutes before we started recording, I do like a lot of e-com mentoring, and I'm actually in the process of writing a book as well. We're not going to do like, it's not properly, we're not going to publish it with like a physical publisher. We're just going to do an online version. And I'm going to send this, I'm going to clip this up, send it to Joe. Why? He's like, why it takes so long? Writing a book takes a long time. Like if you got like high level of pride in your work, you're not going to put a book out, even if it's like a digital copy, unless you really feel comfortable with it. So I can relate there. It's been about 6 months, and I keep thinking we're close, but there's the more I dig, the more work that
then
comes
you have a
out.
shower and you're like, I can teach that better. I can use this story instead, this photo instead. And then you go back and redo it. And I'm doing the audiobook right now. So I'm currently recording that. And even that, like learning how to word it better doing that. So yeah, it's like constantly refine. But yeah, it's been a great process, man.
It's a cool thing like to have on your life vision board to write a book. So I'm sure that's something you would have had as a goal for a while. So congrats.
The reason I did it, I'm in a mastermind, and the great exercise to do. He pretty much, my mentor said, you've all got 6 months to live. What do you do? And the first thing I wrote down was, I finally write the book I've been talking shit about for whatever.
Really?
And once you finish the exercise, he said, these are your goals that you keep procrastinating. I'm like, you're fucking right. And
that's crazy.
So literally that day, that was January, I think like 5th or first week of Jan. That day I went home, like canceled all the other projects, and I'm going to fucking do this. I've been saying this for 3 years.
That's so cool.
I'm going to do it. So yeah.
Dude, you changed my perspective on something today when I was watching one of your videos. It was the one on like, what's your values, right? And
Yeah.
we'll go into later in the podcast. It's jumping ahead about kind of your, system that people can go through to help. Some people it comes more naturally, some people it doesn't.
Yep.
And again, I might be one of those cliche people, right? But I believe it more than most people. And I know it's my own personal bias. Like freedom isn't a value.
Yep.
And I'm like, what do you mean, man?
Yep.
Freedom is a value. You go, no, okay. You win, like your analogy was, you win $100 billion. You win $1 billion USD. You never have to work a day in your life. What do you then do, right? And then whatever your answer is, write a book, travel, have experiences. That's what you really value.
Yep.
And I think mine is and always has been the reason I'm so ambitious and want to work so hard to create money to buy freedom is so I can have the ability to have all these experiences as well. But there's the ADHD nuance of, but maybe in 6 months, I don't want to do experiences. I want to be able to do X. So that was really cool, man. I think that people listening are going to get a lot of value out of this podcast. You asked before we started recording, like, what sort of listeners do you have? What are they looking for? As I mentioned, a lot of them are in business, and I say this to like a lot of the e-com brands and clients that I mentor, and even the people that just apply and I have these conversations. It's like people want to dive straight into the business and all the e-com hacks and websites and your secret Facebook funnels and all that stuff, right? But it's like the most important foundational element is your mindset, right? And a lot of the stuff I talk about, and this is something I've reflected on in my own personal growth journey, I was always building on top, right? But then it gets to a certain level when you build on top that you can't get any higher until you go down to the foundations, right?
I like
so this episode is going to be a lot more about the foundations and some of the strategies that you can use to really unlock your full potential.
Yep.
Where I want to start, I just want to get your thoughts on this quote. I had Jack Delosa on the podcast.
I love Jack Delosa.
Yeah, I love Jack. It was really, 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 really good episode a few months back. And he said, entrepreneurship is a trauma response.
Yep.
Do you agree?
Not necessarily entrepreneurship. That can be the vehicle of it. So so I talk about trauma, coping strategies, and triggers.
Yeah.
So and trauma can be either a moment in time or a limiting belief, and they are different. But I just put them in the bucket of inner healing, or wounds, inner stuff to work through. A lot of coping strategies for what we call high achievers is overcompensating from not being enough. And that can be expressed as entrepreneurship, but that could be an athlete. That could be,
for sure.
It could be other things, but entrepreneurship is generally a vehicle people use to do that. It's like, I did that with the gym. So I opened up 3 gyms by 22 and I was like, work. And that was overcompensating because I didn't feel like I was enough for my dad. And so, not necessarily the word entrepreneurship specifically, but it can often
for sure.
express like that.
Right. A lot of, and that made sense to me as well, because like, if I think about myself, it's definitely, and the example you gave in one of your posts, and I'm going to reference these because I've literally binged all your content. Literally, Lewis is a great follow if you're not following him. Was there's 2 ways you can go if you feel like you're not enough, right? You can let that become a self-fulfilling prophecy, never really do anything with your life and let it become true. Or you do everything in your power to prove that it's not wrong, but then it gets to the point where that is no longer, nothing is ever enough to satisfy you. Then you need to go deep within again, right? And I feel like that's something that I've gone through the last few years. Like I've been in business for like 7 years now, made heaps of money, like very profitable business. My whole life changed. And it's like, I know the reason I got into business was the typical guy, young male reasons, right? And now I've got that and I've kind of matured past that. I've had to kind of touch base with myself and figure out, those motivations that got me to here, they don't do it for me anymore. What are the real motivations and purpose that drive me from within? So it's a really cool journey. And I think for all the guys listening, and I'm obviously women as well, but mainly the guys, like some of you might think, this stuff, trauma or inner child work or all this stuff, I don't really buy into it. Like that's just an excuse you're giving to yourself.
Deflection.
Right? Deflection, right? Men, we love to avoid things. Me too. People with ADHD, we love to avoid things. So I just think it's up to you if you want to take this on board. Right? Your business is only ever going to be a reflection of yourself, and you're only limiting yourself. If you want to brush all this off, sweet as, you're only hurting yourself. So, but it's really cool. I think when you get into this stuff, it really becomes an addiction, right? A personal growth journey. So you mentioned before, I wanted to get a little bit of background context on you. You and like known your first kind of phase of life and business was fitness. You owned a bunch of gyms. You did that quite young. You were quite successful. Talk to me about your motivations to get in that space and then the changes that happened when you decided to pivot into what you're doing today.
Yeah, man, just honestly echoing a lot of things you just said. And it's like the pain pleasure drivers, they work at the start until they don't. It's if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, down the bottom it's like eat, sleep, survive, procreate, have sex, and like survive. And it's very survival, pain, pleasure drivers, but that works until it doesn't. And that's where once you've got a level of success where you don't have to worry about bills, you're safe, you're comfortable, it's like, what else fulfills me? And that's where it goes from motivation to inspiration. So I went down that pathway. So at the start, it was very much to prove that I was enough for my dad. So I started in the fitness industry. Before that, I was an amateur athlete. And yes, I wanted to be a high school teacher and a personal trainer. That was the vision back then. I literally just wrote this on a presentation. I was going down that pathway. And it led me to the fitness industry. I worked for free for 2.5 years. I then bought into half of that gym when I was 20, then bought into a second one, opened a second one when I was 21, bought into a third one when I was 22. But it was just like more, you need more. I had three times gym owner at 22 on my Instagram bio.
That is crazy. That's crazy.
Just to be the man, right? But it's
the amount of things guys do to put it in their Instagram bio, right?
Just to be the man.
Women as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's all overcompensating, right? It's just I hit a breaking point.
It's overcompensating, but as well, like not to cut you off. Sorry to cut you off. I'm cutting you off. It's like also like, you have to believe you are before you can become that as well. So an element of both.
It works, and that's why it works. And it's like the Tom Brady example. It's like he was whatever the last draft pick, and he had that monkey on his shoulder. But at some point, it's like he's proven it. It's like he's already overcome it. Now it's like legacy. It's like impact. You hear that story of Michael Jordan, how he said like, yes, he got cut from the basketball team, whatever, and then he was successful and had crushed all the goals, but he like every game he showed up, and I remember he shared that story. It's like, cause he knows that one time against the team that they're going to smoke anyways, there's going to be one kid. It's the only time they're going to see him live, and that's going to be their interpretation of him. So he's doing it for a different reason.
That's cool.
So pain and pleasure work until it doesn't. So, anyways, did the gyms, hit a breaking point when I was 22, because I was building it on sand. Like there was no like solid systems, foundation, leadership. I was spinning all the plates. I was like, working at one gym in the morning, taking sessions in the other in the afternoon, doing all the lead sales during the day. And it was just like cliche entrepreneur, just like more shiny objects, and
very unsustainable.
Yeah, unsustainable as fuck. So that ended up hitting a breaking point. I share it in the book. There's a story where like took a year to sell it, found a buyer, pretty much a year of negotiating, got the buyer. He said yes to it. 2 days before the cooling off period happened, he called and pulled out the deal. And I broke down. I remember I was at home and I was like anxious because I was like super stressed, overwhelmed, like not in a good space. And remember, when he told me the words, he's out, I literally fell to the ground crying. I'm like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to get out of this. And ended up giving one of my businesses to a business partner. I said, brother, I can't, the one we're trying to sell. I said, mate, you take it. I just can't handle it. I need to get my shit sorted. You can have my business. And I built it up. It was probably worth about 150 grand of my shares. I said, just take it. I don't want it. You do it. And then I was already doing a lot of growth. I was doing the Tony Robbins, the books, the podcasts, and a lot of things. And it just like initiated me to go deeper into that and work on values, purpose, mission, vision, a lot of healing, a lot of inner work, get clear on what I truly wanted, authentically wanted, and then just shifted my goals to do that. So ended up selling the second gym, went through COVID with 2 gyms. That was fun. This was all. So I gave the first one away December before COVID, and then COVID happened. I went through that with 2 gyms.
So you're like 26 now, 27?
I'm 27 now. Yeah. So gave the gym away. I think it was like December-ish before COVID happened. And then when COVID happened around March or whatever, went through that with 2 gyms. At the end of that, sold one back to the franchise. The franchise went under. That's another story for another day. And then I had one. And because now I was clear on what I wanted, this just became the vehicle to pay me to be able to do what I wanted to do. And so I got that under management, hired myself out of it. I was making about 2 to 3 grand a week from that studio for about an hour's worth of work. And then that gave me the time, space, freedom to do what I wanted to do, which was my values, my purpose, and actually building up the coaching, which is what I do now. And yeah, that led me to where I am now. So
that you mentioned when you were early in the gym phase, building all these gyms, investing, opening up new franchises as someone so young. You're so immature at those ages, but you think you know it all, right? You don't realize, you have no awareness to realize how little you actually know.
Yeah.
When did it first click to you, or were you aware the whole time that the big driving factor behind a lot of these early motivations was to prove to your dad that you're enough? Or
it's easy to say in hindsight, you always kind of knew. I think I was just unconscious of it back then. So when I did, it was DeMartini is a big factor for me. Okay, I think you've had Mojo on this, and he's a big DeMartini man. Yep. So
I think we're going to have DeMartini. It doesn't Jose work for him? I think we're going to have him on.
He's been on my podcast.
He's a good chat.
He's deep. Smart. Turn your ears up for him. He's wild. So So he teaches values, and I teach purpose slightly different to him, but he really opened up to like when you actually know what you truly want to do and you actually live in congruency with it and actually be yourself, not try be number two of someone else, which is what I was doing for my dad, who I have to be, should be, got to be to prove I am enough for him versus, well, who the fuck am I authentically? And why don't I just do that? And that was after the breakdown and giving away the first gym. It was during COVID in that, because obviously COVID was a weird period. But I just went super deep, kept going. I was always doing growth, but it just kind of, I just went another layer deeper into it. And yeah, I forget your original question, but
I don't know. Same. But what was the original things? Like, was it like Tony? It's always interesting to hear what was the first person that got people into.
Tony's the entry drug to self-development.
Yeah. Well, see, for me, it was Gary Vee.
Oh, Gary.
It's very like similar, but different. Like, yeah, it's like different. Yeah. But Tony, obviously, I love Tony's work as well.
Gary
but yeah. It was very much, the further you get in, I feel like I spend less time listening to Gary because like it's very like same sort of messaging.
Show up, be authentic, be yourself, be a good
work
human.
hard, fucking eat shit, hustle. You know, like you said, you work for free for like 2 years or whatever beforehand. I think that's a really important part of the process that too many people want to skip past. But in that journey of growth, you're going deeper. I'm sure you're doing I know you've invested heaps of money into your own personal development through coaches, mentors, seminars, events, those sorts of things. Just in terms of like, I'm sure there were loads, but what comes to mind in terms of one or a couple of the examples that you realized about yourself, those big realizations, the lessons, the aha moments? Oh, I'm doing that because X. Because sometimes, like you said, you give a lot of analogies when you're explaining it. Sometimes people don't understand something or can't see it in themselves until they hear an example of what it might be. Like, okay, I get it.
Look, obviously learning it, you can't be held accountable to something that you're not aware of.
Sure.
It's very much you're doing the best what you have. So like right now, myself and everyone would be having, I call them the breadcrumbs from the universe, the triggers and the things that just are revealing parts of you haven't worked on. So that was always happening. I just wasn't conscious of it. So when did I become conscious of them? Would have been when I really dived deeper into my NLP. So I did NLP 5 years ago. Also did timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and some other techniques in there. And Deepening certainly sprinkled a lot more awareness into that. Peter Crone's a big mentor of mine. I love Peter Crone's work. So I don't really have, there's some definitely definitive ones. A Kerwin Ray memory came out. I worked with Kerwin Ray for 3 years in his mastermind, and it was my first mastermind. This is before I got rid of the third gym, but it was a moment that came up. You're on a mastermind table. There's 10 people there. I'm the youngest by 20 years. And there's people doing $10 million, $100 million a year. I'm this dude with 2 gyms at the time. And you write down, what do you want help with? And I'm lead sales, obviously cliche answers. I just need more clients, more money. And I'm like, hey, it's my turn to go. Hey, my name's Lewis. I own gyms and I need help selling and marketing. I need more leads and more sales. And the first question straight to my face says, what's your relationship like with your dad? I was like, I was like, no, I wasn't ready for that. And I hadn't done that level of work yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's all right. They're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I started crying.
Did you go there?
Yeah, I went there. Yeah. And then my homework, takeaway from it was they gave me some basic lead and shit, but it was very much address your stuff and kind of what you were saying before. You can build as high as you want, but you got to start to go deeper.
Yeah.
So that was a pivotal moment. I think I was 21, 22 at the time. So it was about 5-6 years ago. But yeah, it's more so when you learn it and then you see it. You be aware of it. When I say nothing triggers you, it reveals what's inside of you. So when you're triggered, it's a limiting belief or a trauma being revealed. Once you know that, and then tonight when your partner triggers you, you can actually, that's what he meant. Okay, well, what did he mean? Let me find what it is. And then you're, it's an invalidation wound. Oh, it's a rejection wound. Oh, it's a I'm not enough wound. Oh, it's a anger wound. Oh, that makes sense. Now let's find the memory. Oh, I found it. Fuck, let's heal that. So it's learning it and then applying it to my life. Honestly, my relationship, your relationship will reveal your wounds more than anywhere else, just because they see you more than anyone else. We met each other, 40 minutes ago, give or take. You won't see me to the depth that my partner does, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So they're going to see us where we've had shit sleep, where we've got financial stress, when the dog shit on the carpet, when it's the washing machine's broken. They're going to see those parts of you that no one else gets to see.
Yeah.
So just by proximity, they're going to shine those parts onto you that you haven't worked through yet. So I think your question is very much when did I get initiated into this? It was learning about it from various different mentors. Wayne Dyer's I'm a big fan of. Deepening, Joe Dispenza, Tony Robbins, where I got started, and learning the concepts and the understanding behind it, but then obviously applying it. And it's okay, I'm triggered now. What is being triggered? it's that. Then I get to go work on it, and been doing that for a long time. And then helping others with it. Obviously, you get a lot of reps, and you get really,
100%,
you get,
right?
it's like that precision. From my opinion, anyways, is a lot of the mastery of the work that I'm in. It's your ability to, with precision, bring it back to where it's coming from. So if you get triggered right now, I'm pretty solid at finding, okay, what's the specific trait? Let's find where it's coming from, and then let's do a process on that. And I can do that really quickly. Where at the start, I'd have to ask like 10 questions. Oh, maybe it's this, let's try this, where I can do it really quickly now.
Yeah.
You'd be the same with like business and e-com. You could like, I see the problem. There's a problem. Back. You can do it piece to piece. But a couple of years ago, you'd be, oh, I think it's this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try that. So it's learning it, understanding it, but then just doing it over and over and over again. And then you just get better and better at it.
Just a quick one from me. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'd know that after scaling Happy Skin Co. to over $10 million per year, I spent close to 18 months creating the Viral Brand Builder program, which teaches someone with zero experience how to launch and scale their very own e-commerce brand. With over 100 training videos and direct access to me, including one-on-one calls, you'll be guided throughout the entire process. Now, we already have a bunch of incredible results from students that are making multiple 5 and 6 figures per month. So if you want to learn how to build a business that has the potential to completely change your life, then click the link in the description and book in an application call today. Spots are limited as you'll be speaking directly to me. So hopefully I'll chat to some of you soon. But until then, let's get back to the podcast. That's the really hard part. Not hard part. That's like the tricky part, right? Because it's like, over the last couple of years, as I mentioned, you start thinking more about like, that inner child trauma or whatnot, and something it's gonna make you laugh with all the work you've done, I'm sure. And it's not even something I fully understand yet. I just know there's got to be something there. Yeah. I didn't meet my dad till I was 15. So I grew up with my mum and my grandparents. We'd live with them till I was 5. Then we moved in with my stepdad, and then I had my younger brother and all that. And I've said and I've sworn, bro, that didn't affect me.
Yeah.
And I still don't really know how it did. Obviously, and I am the way I am. I've started to really piece together what I think it was based on, getting taken out from a situation where I could do no wrong. Like imagine living with your mum and your grandparents who all adore you, then getting plucked seemingly one day, next day into a house with a guy you don't know and 3 older step siblings.
Yeah.
Right? I think that for me is when I retreated, and this is something that I've had to work through with my partner is I didn't always let people in. I'm very self-sufficient with my own emotional needs, and that got to a certain point where it's like, fuck, okay, I need to unpack that in order to move forward. Yep. So it's interesting, right?
Yeah. Look, there's, I don't know how to put it in words, but it's like people, you've got that trait where you do a lot of sort of self-thinking and you're self-processing, which is fantastic. And there's some benefit to it. I can throw some probing questions at you, which can help you find it. But people are like, oh, where do I start? Just wait till you get triggered. Like the triggers that are opening, and something I've learned actually only in the last 12 months. Yes, you can find the moments, and my definition of trauma is a moment in time when something was too much or not enough. So it can be, and it's, for me, I break it down for anyone that's a DeMartini fan to a trait, an action, or inaction. So it's a moment in time when something was too much: rejection, anger, criticism, abuse, neglection, isolation. There'd be a word, an action, or inaction that was too much or not enough. Being seen, being heard, being held, feeling safe. There'll be not enough of that. And then if you have not healed through that, you will get triggered by that. So I use rejection as an example. So say you were 3 years old and you got rejected from mum or dad or from a friend or a sibling or whatever, and that was too much at the time. And we generally have more trauma in childhood because we're more sensitive then. Like if I do something mean to you right now, it might not get you, but if you're 5 years old, it might get you, right? So whatever hasn't been healed through, this is the slippery slope of this, is the reticular activating system. Most people have heard of. It's the RAS. It's the things, whatever you deem as important, you find. So it's like you buy a new car, you see the car everywhere. Buy a new shirt, you see the shirt everywhere, whatever. So it works in reverse though, because if you haven't healed through something, you're trying to avoid it, because past hurt creates future fear. That's a Peter Crane quote. So if you've been hurt from rejection, you're going to try not get it anymore because it was painful. But if I say, don't look for a yellow bus, what are you thinking of?
Yellow bus.
So if you're trying to not look for rejection, you're actually looking for it and attracting it, and then you get triggered by it, which then sets off a coping strategy. So to bring it back to where I was starting with this, yes, you can go back and say, okay, the question I asked, what did you not get from, what's the one thing you wish you could change about dad? Say it in one word. Answer that question for me. In one word, what's the one thing you wish you could change about dad?
the word that came, but I also don't agree because I wouldn't have had like my granda was essentially my dad. The greatest person that ever
you can use
existed.
that figure too as well, by the way.
What came to mind, I thought nothing was the first thing, right? But that's probably still a self-defense mechanism, right?
You had to answer it.
The only thing, but I don't even know if I fully believe this, but what came was presence.
Cool. Presence.
Like he wasn't there.
Cool. So I'd say like absent.
Yeah.
Cool. So then there'll be an absent or avoidant or a reject. There's different, you play around with the word. Like I was saying, the precision of actually identifying what the trait is the magic. But you'd find, okay, whatever that word is, that's the wound. Now you can then find a memory of a specific time where that person did that trait or action to you, or you can just use it when your wife does it tonight or your partner does it tonight. So I did a process on my partner. I've done many processes on my partner and like she triggered me that I say it was a Thursday. I did a process on her on Friday for what she did on Thursday because the trigger is the revealing of the wound. Yep. So if you just do the process on that person at that time, even if it was yesterday, even though the original one came from 20 years ago, you're still healing it. Does that make sense? So
the reason because I remembered when you were explaining it, right? The reason I brought up that whole story was because you said you got better at the precision of finding that moment, right? Yep. As people are working through, obviously you've coached thousands of people, so I'm sure that muscle, even you would have learned so much doing it to yourself, step one, then that first 100, you've probably 10 extra skills going through that first 100, then it refines from there. But that process, and like, that's why I gave you like a general example for me, because I go back and I'm like, I can't identify any single moment that made me the way I am, but I believe that there was something, but I probably blocked it out as a self-defense mechanism. Yep. So how do you get that skill of finding a moment if nothing, like no specific moment comes, but you remember the feeling, but not any specific moment to go back and,
The answer is the ego. So your ego, for my definition, is the identity of who you view yourself to be. You have to, got to be, should be, must be, to be enough, to be loved and to be accepted. Two main traits of the ego. Number one, it will prove itself right. That's very limiting. So if I'm not enough, I'll make that right. If I'm not worthy of love, I'll make that right. So it's very self-fulfilling in a limiting way. But number two, it avoids pain. That's where this comes up. So it wants to naturally avoid pain. So if I was to ask a probing question in something that's painful for you, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
So one of the main traits of the ego is deflection. So if I use my mum because I love my mum, but her main flavor of the ego is deflection. So hey mum, how are you going with your finances lately? What are you doing this weekend? Like let's get rid of that. Yeah. So I got an example. Dion, if you listen to this, he's a good friend of mine. He's in my book. Reference him. So I was at his Bucks party actually. So we're out there and we're just chatting, connecting, and I normally get like one person at the side of the party and go deep with them. And, that's my style. And we're just chatting. I'm just like, because I met his brother. I don't want to go down that pathway, but I met his brother and I'm like a people analyzer. I'm like, oh, where's that coming from? I'm doing that all the time. And we started talking about purpose. And he's like, so we're talking about, I say it's your biggest core wound. It's an expression of your biggest core wound. And I said, so brother, like, can I ask you a direct question? He's like, yeah, go for it. I said, what's your biggest core wound? And just answer whatever comes up. Oh, I don't know. Like within 2 seconds, I'm like, well, thanks for thinking of that for 2 fucking seconds. Why don't you actually take 30 seconds to think about it?
Yeah.
So it will generally be the deflection, and it's because that's the part that's keeping it safe. So just sit with it. So if I don't know if you want to turn the whole podcast into that, but I'll just get you to take a breath. What's the one thing you dislike the most about dad? Because whatever comes up for you, that word came up, you can't have a judgment without context. There will be something there, but it'll be super deep-seated and might be whatever, 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
If you just keep looking, and this is where people get like caught up with, I have to have the exact moment. Just vaguely go there. Yeah. What would it be? You were at home and you're talking with a friend at school and he was talking about how much he loved his dad. And you're like, oh, fuck, I feel like mine's not there. And that's the moment. That's the moment you made the judgment, even though he hasn't even been in your life at all. Yeah. That's the moment where you made the judgment of he was absent. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would go down that pathway. Or again, you don't have to use the moment they did it. Your partner's going to do that. One of your team members is going to do it. Yeah. Someone on the fucking bus is going to, someone's going to do it, and you can just use that. But I would just honestly just hold the person accountable. They're just trying to deflect. Because it's painful.
No, it's really good. It's like, I love the way you break it down. For me, I don't know if there's a block there, or I just really, really feel like I fucking wouldn't change it. I wouldn't. If you could ask me genuinely, would I change? Would I want to grow up with a dad? No way,
Yeah,
because I wouldn't have had the relationship with my grandparents.
Yeah, perfect. And that's intellectualizing, which makes sense. And that's actually, I've got gratitude on my jumper.
Yeah.
It's actually a shadow of people who do self-development. Oh, but it happened for a reason, right? It happened for a reason. If you have emotional charge, right now, hand on heart, do you have emotional charge towards your dad?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Answer's yes. And it could be a 1% or 100%.
It's an awkward feeling, I think.
So I like the quote, to the degree you resist reality is the degree that you suffer. So wherever you have resistance, emotional charge, there is an opportunity to heal. Now, again, it's a spectrum. It's like if I say someone was murdered, abused by someone, it's like, do you have a charge? Fuck yeah, I want to kill that person. Obviously, that's a lot. It's like, oh, I just don't kind of like him. He's a bit annoying. There's a little bit there. So there's something to heal through. So some people, like when they hear the word trauma, like kind of you framed at the start, they think like, oh my God, all this deep fucking inner child. It's like, mate, you're doing well. Your life is good. You've done really well for yourself. But if there's some emotional resistance towards anyone, in this case, your dad, that emotional resistance will be showing up in your life somewhere. It'll be showing up in your relationship. It'll be showing up in your business. This is where a rising tide raises all boats. Like I've got one of my favorite testimonials. I had a client. She went from making $3,000 a month to $100,000 a month in 60 days. And we did zero tactical skills, zero sales training, it was all her shit. We did a balancing process. We got her clear on her values, got her living with it. And energetically, I know this is getting woo-woo for some people, but energetically that resistance towards that went away. And then she untapped she already had the skills, because the skills are easy. Like you're saying, the strategy, like there's funnels, the steps, all that stuff. Yes, obviously there's complexity and there's nuance to that, but you could give a 7-step system of how to do that. Like do this. Why aren't you doing that? What are you avoiding within that? What are you protecting yourself from not doing that? And then we lean into that. So yeah, I would get you to put this all into one answer. I would just hold you accountable with it in a loving way. Just take a breath, man. If there was one thing you dislike the most about dad, what would it be? Another way you can ask is, what's the one thing you wish could change about dad? Now, intellectualize and be, oh, well, everything happened for a reason. Okay, I get that. Let's put that to the side. If you had to answer the question, what's the one thing in one word that you wish you could change about dad?
You know what? I'll tell you what came to my head. It's not an answer to that question. So feel free to probe me again after, but like part of me thinks, and we'll move on after this because I don't just want to make this therapy session for me. But hopefully you guys can, hear my examples and think about it with the context of your own life. Is like, he doesn't fucking deserve me to even think about this shit.
He doesn't deserve. So unworthy?
Yeah. It's actually a good word.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's an unworthiness from dad towards you?
100%.
Perfect. So there's be resistance there. So when people do things in your life where you feel like they're not worthy, it would trigger the fuck out of you. Whoa, dude. And you would shame yourself for it when you do things and you feel like you're not worthy of doing them. There's some light bulbs for you. I get goosebumps.
Wow, I got goosebumps under here.
Perfect. So what I'll do, obviously, unworthy wound. You have an unworthy wound. So I would then do a process on that, because right now you're going to try not look for it.
Because when I feel like someone isn't worthy of, my time, or they've done something or made me feel some way, that is a triggering thing.
It's a charge. And that's the trigger, but this traces back to dad. And then all I'd get you to do a process on that, because right now your RAS, known this for a while,
that's crazy, bro.
And
I've never had that thought or connection once.
You just gotta probe around. But like I said, the mastery of finding it. Like me 2 years ago, I wouldn't be, I don't know, let's try something else. Let's do it. Let's work on mum. Let's do something else. So it's just good. You just sit with it. The ego wants to deflect. Oh, there's nothing. I wouldn't change a thing. Okay, well, if you had to answer the fucking question, answer the fucking question. It's unworthy.
It's like if I deem someone unworthy, and obviously it's a subconscious thing.
Yeah.
It's not a conscious thing.
It's all subconscious.
Right? Yeah. It's like I'm less patient.
Yep.
I'm less empathetic.
And that's your coaching. That's your coping strategy. Good, huh?
Wow, bro.
I won't quit my day job, huh? I'll keep at it.
That's pretty. I've never. Bro, I might have to fucking do some sessions.
I'd love to, like, honestly, just for having me here. I'd love to do a process.
Cool.
I'd like to take you through because my balancing process is my signature process.
Yeah.
You will have your heart open, and we'll get rid of that emotional resistance towards unworthy, because then you'll stop.
I almost feel like tears welling up to my eyes.
That's the healing. That's it. And we won't turn this into a therapy session, but we can if you want. But
I don't usually, like, in the moment get emotional.
Yep. So all we're doing is bringing awareness to it, bring the unconscious to the conscious. And the thing is, your intuition actually constantly wants to heal. The questions I'd ask you that you can think about after this call is, what were the benefits to you because of your dad displaying unworthy to you?
Then I didn't care. Then I could, protect myself. I didn't need him.
Answer it in 1 and 2 word answers.
So ask me the question again.
What is the benefit of your dad displaying unworthy to you?
I didn't have to feel the pain of him not being there.
Beautiful. So say that in 1 word.
Pain or unworthy?
I would say grit, resilience.
Resilience.
Beautiful. Give me another one.
Another word
Yeah, another benefit. Yeah.
Another benefit. The relationship with my grandparents. I don't know what that word is.
Yeah, connection.
Connection.
Beautiful. So do you see resilience and your ability to connect with people as a great strength of yours?
Massively, yeah.
Who gave those gifts to you?
You going to say my dad?
I'm not going to say it.
Wow.
Would you give those gifts up about yourself?
No.
Pretty special gift, right?
That's crazy,
bro.
bro.
I'm using like little pieces of the process on you. And
because that gift of connection, and I say this with my partner, the gift of love, I have that gift of connection and love, and I can love so much. And I say the reason I can love so much is because of my relationship with my granddad. But the reason I had that relationship with my granddad.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
It's crazy, man.
Oh, we could get going, but
wow. No, we'll talk offline. We'll do some stuff. I'm actually, That's pretty crazy. Anyway, I'm a bit rattled at the moment, as you can see. But that's really fucking good, man. I've always, had conversations with people that, life coaches or whatever, and it's never really got anywhere close to actually to that.
I've done NLP, and everyone on the fucking Gold Coast has done NLP because there's all this, everyone on the Gold Coast is a coach, and I love it. And obviously, I started there too. But it's like obviously that's a foundation, and then it's like, what do you do with it? And are you passionate about it? And do you actually put the time and energy into it? Like, it's you get this because you just apply it to business. How many people try e-com and fucking suck at it?
Yeah.
Versus people who actually commit to it, go through it, do it day in, day out, and actually have the mastery to it.
Yeah, it's a massive difference, right? Small percentage. Yeah, dude, my mind is still spinning.
It's cool. All you're doing right now, I'll talk so you can have some time to gather your thoughts. So your mind is, so when you have a moment of judgment where that's my definition of trauma, it's a moment where something was too much or not enough. When the thing is your intuition is constantly trying to actually bring it back into balance for you. So it's like if we are homeostatic human beings. So essentially things want to come into balance. Like if you get a cut on your arm, do you have to tell your body to heal it? No, it wants to heal it because it wants to come back to wholeness. So when you have something that was too much or not enough, or a moment in time where there was trauma or a judgment happen, your intuition is trying to actually bring it into balance for you. If you have a moment in your life that you keep thinking of, that's your intuition trying to process it. What I do is just come in with more awareness and better questions to help you do it instantaneously. It's like people have hindsight where something happens and then a day, a week, a month, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years later, I realized why it happened for me. All I was doing then with dad is actually help you identify what it was and then just ask one question to help you find it. And then your mind's like bang, bang, bang. And then this emotional charge will dissipate. You'll have tears of gratitude come through your eyes. And then life gets better. So
that's crazy, man.
It's a hazard warning being around me is you probably unpack your shit.
Yeah. So. No, that's fucking like, we'll definitely talk more. That's like, I've been talking to my partner obviously about wanting to speak to someone to help me unpack this stuff because I don't know how to navigate it. You know, you're too close to it.
Yeah.
But logically, you can't get there logically like I was trying to do.
Intellectualizing is one of the most slipperiest things because self-development people, I'm so grateful for everything I went through. Really? Yeah. Really? Let's have a chat.
And that perspective has served me to a certain point as well.
This is the thing. Every belief serves you. Even the limiting ones.
Yeah.
Now that's a healthier one than like, fuck, I hate my dad, I want to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, that's healthier than that, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's still limiting.
For sure.
Because true gratitude, true healing can only be felt. So you can intellectualize it here.
Yeah.
Until you get it here, you don't get
That's
it.
the big difference.
And you would have just then from those questions felt a shift in there because your heart's getting it. You can intellectualize it. Disassociating and intellectualizing is a coping strategy. I did it for a long time. I'm a very mental-based person. I'm very I got bullied and I had my dad trauma and all that stuff, and I would hide in my head, disassociate up to your head.
Yeah.
Safe up here. I can stay up here. I don't get hurt up here. But the biggest journey that most people will ever have to hopefully travel is the 6 inches between your heart and your head. It's actually traveling from there down to there. And those questions and me just holding you a little bit was just to get down there, and that's where you feel it. And then that emotional resistance will go away. And it's really weird when you actually, not weird, I think it's really beautiful. When you actually go through this process and actually integrate a wound and fully get it, not just intellectualize to get it, weird things happen. Like I had a client, I did one with her mum. So I picked mine up. So did on her mum, and the trait was controlling. So we did the trait on controlling with her mum. And she barely talks to her mum, like maybe once a month, and just, hey, are you alive? Yep, I'm good. Yep. Like that level of chat. And we did the process. The next day, the next morning, out of nowhere, her mum sends her this photo saying, "Thank you for being the best daughter I've ever had." And they never talk like that. Interesting. It's like the moment she let go of that emotional cord attached to her, she got something back. Another one, a client in New Zealand, and we did a process on cheating. It was actually lying, but she said cheating. We got it down to lying, and did the process on this partner. He cheated on her. He lied about it. Went through it. Gratitude, heart open, tears, all that good stuff. Next day, she's like, "I feel so light. I feel so free, and I literally physically can see better." And I'm like, interesting, because maybe you weren't seeing through the lies. I'm like, that's interesting. So it's like, I can't tell what's going to happen all the time, but weird things happen. It's really cool.
That's really fucking cool, man. And I think I'm going to ask you questions throughout this podcast to help people have the tools to, do some of this work on their own.
Yeah, for sure.
But like the reason, I recommend people getting like, just if you have the means to pay for someone that's an expert in it, fucking do it because it's a cheat code.
Yeah.
I could have been like trying to spin all these questions for months and months and months and never, know. So, keep that in mind. And I didn't bring you on here to like, let's promote Lewis and say he's the best. I didn't know. And I met you half an hour ago, as you said.
All good, man.
But let's start back at like a bit of the early stages of the process someone would go through, right? Like when it comes to like figuring out your purpose, and I really love that quote that you mentioned, and I'd never heard it before. It's obviously you might have heard it in yourself, but I'd never heard it before. It's like your purpose is like,
expression of
your biggest core wound, right? When people are like, say no one's done any of this inner work before and they're trying to start the process and start living a conscious life, is it first step, try and figure out your purpose, or is it like, let's figure out your values first, or does it not even matter which one comes first?
It's the second answer is correct. It's like, doesn't necessarily matter. And so something as a coach I've been playing around with is what sequence is most beneficial for someone. So
and that's my logical brain trying to be like step by step, like e-commerce, okay, step by step.
I'm
how
the
do we
same
break
though,
that
man.
down?
Like I'm Asperger's, autistic, and ADHD. I'm very like structured and all that stuff. I do obviously have the sort of woo-woo healing part to me, but I'm very much like that. So I played around with it. My personal opinion, what works best, I do values first. So values are areas of life that intrinsically fulfill you. And low self-worth and self-doubt is feedback. You're not prioritizing your values. So it's an easy, quick win because right now everyone's been the best version of their limited self. That's Peter Crone's quote. And we've all got limitations, trauma, wounds, resistance to work through, but that's an infinite game. You're never going to stop that. Yeah. Let's get you to be right now the best version you can be in whatever capacity you can. So figure out what's important to you and actually do it. I know that sounds simple, but most people don't do it.
I have a lot of conversations. I'm very like, self-development and growth is a passion of mine, but I've kind of expressed that through business. Yours is probably on a deeper level, right? And that quote you said, I've had a lot of conversations with people and ask, hey, self-confidence, self-worth, where did that come from? How do people build that? Again, I've never heard someone say it, but it makes so much sense to me whenever this is what I always do, right? Yeah. If I was ever in life and I'm feeling a little bit lost and, don't feel clear on where I'm going, I stop with myself. I think about, okay, what do I want now? What are my true goals now? Because often in business, you can be running so fast. You're chasing this goal you set 3 years ago and you don't even care about that anymore. And it's your self-worth, the way you see and feel about yourself is linked to whether or not you're living in alignment with your real values or not.
Yep.
That's fucking really cool.
It's the Statue of David quote. Have you heard that? Like,
yes.
It's how did you make such a beautiful statue? It was really easy. David was in the statue. I just removed everything that wasn't him. So we are born, I would say, I've never met a baby who was born and their first words were, I'm not enough. I'm yet to meet a baby like that. So I've never met a baby who needs followers, money, status, achievements to be beautiful and to be enough, right?
Yeah.
But then we download the bullshit, the expectation, the projections of who you have to be, should be, got to be, must be, whatever, which is just projecting values. So that's why I will generally start with people because it's like, okay, well, who are you authentically? What actually lights your soul on fire? And let's actually do those things. I'll use my brother because he's happy with me sharing this stuff. And he's attempted suicide a couple times, depressed, anxious, medications, all that stuff. He's come a long way in his journey. And I'm kind of like my family's therapist, by the way. So we caught up.
Crazy that you're only 27 as well. Very mature ahead of your years.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. So we did a session. It was only, I think, maybe this year or maybe late last year. And he actually said, hey, can you actually help me with this value stuff? And I took him through the process. And then I called him only about 4 monons ago and I just ran checking, how you doing? How's your week? And he's like, oh, to be honest with you, man, I felt really depressed again at the start of this week. I said, okay, thanks for being vulnerable. How are you feeling now? He's like, oh, well, I remember you told me when I'm depressed, I'm not prioritizing my values. So I pulled up my values because we'd done them already. And I looked at them and I'm like, oh, fuck, I haven't been doing any of them. So I actually just started prioritizing them and now I feel sweet. I'm like, well, there you go. I'm like, it sounds simple, but people don't do it.
It's extremely simple.
It's like most people, do things to impress mum, dad, society, religion, social media.
Yes,
And they're all
all those
things that
things.
they think they should do, have to be, got to do to be enough. It's like, well, why don't you just be yourself? Your self-worth from the moment you're born to the moment you die never changes. It's your perception on that, and your feelings of self-worth and self-doubt is feedback for you to wake the fuck up and go be yourself.
Yeah, man. And I think those moments where I feel most shitty with myself is when I'm spending time doing things that I don't want to be doing. And I'm in a position that I don't have to do them, but you become a prisoner of your own success or your own expectations that you've set, right?
Yep.
And that whole thing as well. And I think one of the most common examples is like, you said, as you listed, friends, all the things that could make you want to, portray a certain way, society, that you have to get a job that you don't like. Yeah. You have to hate Monday to Friday. You get 2 days to yourself. And it's not even really 2 days because it gets to 4 p.m. Sunday and you're already thinking about work the next day. Yeah. Right? What do you do with people when they're stuck in that situation? What's the message that you give to them if people are living this life that is not in alignment with them? Yep. But obviously everyone has bills to pay, but something you help teach and obviously you've been able to do is there's a way to, monetize your passion or your greatest strengths as well. But what's some of the advice you give to people that are just on that rat race going around that loop and they're not happy at all?
Oh man, first thing, awareness. Again, I always start with empathy when I work with people because people are generally doing the best of what they have. It's like if you've grown up in I obviously grateful for all the things I've been through, and well, I lie because there would be still things I haven't processed yet. But I could only imagine being born. This is really weird. It just came up. I was listening to a podcast and I think it was Bruce Lipton that was on it. And he was helping out with the Palestine-Israel situation and trying to help sort of get through it and whatever. I don't know the details of it, but part I do remember of that conversation was if you go to the schools over there, and I don't know which one, sorry for the trigger warning because I'm going to say the wrong thing. So people don't just get the message out of this, this part is at one of the sites, I think it was Israel off the top of my head, at the schools from kindergarten or year whatever, they're conditioning these kids to kill these people because of they're horrible people. That's their conditioning. So it's no wonder the war keeps going. It's because you're controlling and conditioning these people to believe that. Yeah. And they're doing the best of what they have. So you're just living up to whatever beliefs that you have. So firstly, I start with empathy because everyone, until maybe hearing this podcast or other things, you don't realize, I don't actually have to go be this fucking job because my dad thought I had to. My dad told me I had to. Or my mum said this or whatever. I saw this thing. Be aware of it, firstly. And once you've got awareness, it's kind of like the Spider-Man quote, great responsibility. As great power comes great responsibility. Yep. So once you've got awareness of it, then you get to choose. And I used to be super extreme. I actually did network marketing before the gyms. It was actually, you bring people down for for the gym and get them onto network marketing. That was kind of the business model. And I used to be super extreme. It's if you're serious, quit your job and go all in. I used to be like that. I'm not like that anymore. So I'm a practical guy. It's if you've got rent, you've got a mortgage, you've got kids, you got bills. It's don't just quit your job that's paying everything and start a passion project because Lewis fucking said, follow your passion. It's okay, that's where I am. This is my values, this is my purpose, this is my mission, this is my vision. Here's my plan of how I'm going to get there. And I'm going to start chipping away at this. Because business is when you first started ecom, I guarantee the next day you didn't make $1 million. It's you had to learn what is income? How do I find products? I was chatting to Huey before. It's how do you find the product? How do you get the delivery? I don't even know all the shit that goes into that. It's you had to learn that stuff. So I'm sure you had to do what you need to do to live and pay the bills until you got to a point. So it's not just 0 to 100 and you've done it. It's be aware of it. Do what you can. That's why I start with values first. Because even doing what you can right now, you'll still be able to live more to your values. You'll be able to say no to things that you don't actually have to fucking go to. Me and my partner, because we're aware of this, we obviously get to help each other with it. Just so many times, and she doesn't really do it anymore, but she's whenever you hear the words, I have to, I got to, I must, I should, you're supposed to, or some variant of that, someone is projecting their values somewhere. It's I got to go to my friend's birthday. According to fucking who? That's the best question. According to who? Why do you have to go? But do you want to go? No, don't fucking go. It's crazy. Crazy idea. Just don't go. Yeah. And it's coming down here. I chose to come down here. No one had to say, put a gun to my head and say, come down to this podcast. It's I've got a book coming up. I want to connect with beautiful humans. I want to share my message. It's I want to be here. This is going to serve my values and my perception. Mm-hmm. So I'm here. Knowing your values, and then I then get them to schedule into their calendar, and those become boundaries. When people say, how do you set boundaries for yourself? Know your values, schedule them into your calendar. Those are your boundaries. Now, I always say try 80, 90% because kids, work, shit happens. I'm not always going to be able to live to my values because things are going to happen. And But 80, 90% of the time, if you can prioritize them the best you can, perfect. Because if you don't, you'll doubt yourself, you beat yourself up, your self-worth will go down, which is feedback to get you back into your values.
So question on what you just said before about, projecting your values. What do you mean by that? So, okay, I've got to go to my friend's birthday because, right? Is her value, like, is that value there that's being projected? Friendship, connection,
Depends how you categorize it. So yeah, in that scenario, it depends on the perception of the person. So you're trying to, I'd have to know the person who it is. All I know is someone's projecting something. So say, give me a real example, and I'll actually be able to ask you some questions. When has someone told you you have to, you got to, you should, you must, or something like that?
Oh no, I tell myself that.
Okay, well, according to who?
And I just want to be a good friend, and I value relationships.
And in that moment, who are you comparing yourself to? Who's a good friend in your mind that you're comparing yourself to? You're saying I have to, have got to do this. It'll be according to and comparing yourself to someone else who has a value on friendship.
I think it's me. I think if it would goes down to, I think it's me comparing to me, and like that, me as that younger kid that wanted to be liked, that wanted, to be seen as a good person.
Values change, just so you know. So like your values when you're a 7-year-old are probably different now.
Yeah.
You might have your similar ones, and like you generally have your core wound will generally still be there. But yeah, like I don't play video games to the same degree I used to. I still play it from time to time, but I do business more than I do that.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're doing it to yourself, you are comparing yourself to someone. It might be an older version of yourself, or again, society, religion. Oh, I got to go to church. According to who? According to the religion that you're subscribing to, which is just a projection. Religion, trigger warning. Religion is a projection of a massive set of values. You have to do this. You should do this. You must do this. You got to do this, or else you get this. It's just all projecting. I'm not religious, if you can't tell.
I've been having a lot of conversations about religion recently. Actually.
I had one with the podcast this morning, and I never talk about religion.
Is Nick religious?
A little bit, not really.
Yeah. It's come up a lot recently, religion. And I think there's like an element of spiritual warfare going on in the world at the moment. Or, it doesn't even have to be at that level, good versus evil, light versus dark. And I've, opened myself up in a way to it. But like when I have these conversations with people, the places where religion loses me is the control, is the do this or that. It's like
it's hypocrisies.
It is, right? And it's like like the Bible. And I've actually been doing like a lot of study on like a few things that really interest me. Like, okay, what are the evidence that Jesus really existed and what did he do when he was alive?
You and me are very smart.
And like the Book of Revelations, because a lot of people are saying the signs are showing themselves now. So those are the two things I spend a lot of time researching. But one of the contradictions is that like they'll say, if the devil is the deceptive one, is so tricky. It's very easy to trick a human. If you take the mark of the beast, whenever it comes, you will face the wrath of, God's anger forever.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, okay, so you're saying if a human who are very easy to trick, a human can trick a human. Imagine the devil, if the devil is who you say the devil is, tricks a human into doing that. God, who you say is the most just, most fair person, is going to essentially condemn these people to hell forever. The way that I have a relationship to God, right? I feel like that's no God that I worship, or that's not how I see God, right? So it's like, I might feel like I have a personal relationship to God, to creator, to whatever. But then when they implement, and I'm open to having these discussions, that's something I've been researching recently. It's like, it just feels like it's been corrupted by humans too much for me to buy into.
Yeah, 100%. Religion has beautiful things about it.
Absolutely.
But then there's the projections I don't agree to either.
Yes.
Because I learned this from Deepening. Every single human displays every single character trait. Mm-hmm. So have you lied before?
Of course.
Have you been honest before?
Of course.
Have you been nice before?
Yep.
Have you been mean before?
Of course.
Have you been cruel before?
Yeah, probably.
Everyone has. And so if every single human being displays every single character trait, but if you, according to religion, do some things that they deem as bad, you then go to hell. When every single human being is going to do it at some point, we're off to hell. And I learned this from Deepening as well, is all universal laws can never be broken. And there's only a couple of them. I don't know all of them. I know a couple of them. But all human laws can never be followed 100%. Show me a single human being who's never lied. Show me a single human being who's never been mean before. So tell me a single human being who's never said something mean or negative to someone. We've all done it.
100%.
So I like religion from the faith, belief, connection, wholeness, love. I love that part. I do not agree with you have to be this and do this and not do this. Otherwise you are fucked.
in this exact way. And I think that's the conversation I've had. And with people like, I agree with like the big values that you subscribe to. I agree, and I value the same things. And my point is, right, if God exists in the way that you think he does, if I live my life in, the right way, and we all sin, we all do wrong things, but more often than not, I'm nice. He would know the content of my heart and my soul and my intentions, right? If I do that, and then because I didn't go to church and say, I did this all in the name of, you're out.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like in alignment to me with what God will be. And then some will say, no, that's not what it's really like. Then it's a whole big contradiction that I can't really understand. Maybe I'm intellectualizing it again, but
I feel you, man. And I told Nick this morning on the other podcast I was on, I never talk about religion it's just
come up twice today already.
It's come up twice today. Just because I know my content, I don't think it will serve my content.
Yeah,
but anyways, really. But I saw this ironic video literally last week, and it was this guy talking about religion and the concept of it. He said, if right now every single book on science disappeared from the face of the earth, like all information on science, in the next 200,000 years, whatever, over time, the exact same information would come back because it's reproducible.
Would it though?
Well,
because
my interpretation would, like the laws of physics aren't going to change.
Yep.
So I don't know. Will it?
Well, I just think, and this is like, tinfoil hat sort of stuff. Like I think we've, in the last couple, since the last ice age, whatever, we've developed in a very engineering, mechanical sort of way. Yep. But then we go back to like the ancient Egyptians and some of the things they were able to do. Our modern technology can't do these things. So I think technology develops in a certain direction, and there's probably a lot that we don't know and understand about, vibration and sound and all those sorts of things.
There'll be further advancement. Though.
Yeah.
So we'd come back to where we are and then keep advancing.
Yeah.
So I believe
we would go in a completely different direction, and we wouldn't know some of what we know now, but we'd know 10 times more about other things that we don't understand.
That's fair. I see that as well.
Yeah.
So that's slightly different to mine. Mm-hmm. And then the next point to where I was going was, if the same thing happened with religion, or religion, information, data, records disappeared, what would it look like 100 years from now? Completely different.
Yeah.
Like I doubt there'd be any similarities. It'd be very, very broad and different because it's all objective to the person who's writing the fucking thing.
Yeah.
So there'd be, I'd say, based on your points as well, I'd say there'd be a lot more consistency from the science and data physics aspect of things. Maybe completely different, I'm not sure. But from religious, I'm pretty confident that it would be completely different to what it is right now.
I would say there would be completely different names and things, but I feel like a lot of religions over the tens of thousands of years mirror each other in a lot of ways as well.
Yep.
So again, that just further complicates
and we kill each other over the differences.
Yeah. But no, it has been interesting researching more about religion. I've found but more from a history perspective, and with an openness. Yep. I'm not shutting, my heart to anything. Yeah. But it's just really interesting. But to take it back, so we've done the values, we've had a conversation about that. Purpose is a reflection of your deepest wound. What's the process that you get some of your clients that you're working with to go through, or questions people listening at home can start asking themselves to help figure out what is either my deepest wound or what could my purpose be?
Yeah, perfect. I've got the exact questions here. Yeah. So what's the, you got to, obviously this is all intuitive. If you intellectualize this, you're fucking this. But intuitively, what's the one thing that you got from mum that you didn't want? And these are all one word answers, by the way. What's the one thing you got from dad that you didn't want? And now, should have pre-framed it. If you did or didn't have parents throughout your upbringing, just use whoever has played that role the most, or whoever feels right to use. So, because you might have like different dads, biological dads and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, what's the one thing you got from mum that you didn't want? What's the one thing you got from dad that you didn't want? What's the one thing you didn't get from mum that you wanted? What's the one thing you didn't get from dad that you wanted? So there's 4 words. You have 4 answers. You'll have those 4 words written down. And then intuitively, out of those 4 words, what's the theme of those words? And you'll come up with unseen, hurt, unloved, abandoned, rejected, inadequate. You'll come up with one word. That's the theme of your core wound. And I get them to say, what was your core wound in your upbringing based on that theme? I'm going to go general. And then I'll zoom in a bit. And I say, what is a specific example of that core wound now? Now we're finding a moment of that core wound being played out. And I say, how old were you? My age was 7 when I did this most recently. Then what did you need back then in that moment? For me, so my core wound is around being hurt, rejected, and lost. So I felt hurt from dad. I felt rejected, Asperger's, weird social anxiety, all that stuff. And lost, I just know how to regulate my emotions, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So 7 years old, dad, abusive, hurting. I felt scared around him. What did I need? I needed to be healed. I needed to be held. I needed to be guided. I needed to be emotionally regulated. I needed to be encouraged. I needed to be supported. XYZ, I get them to get heaps of answers. And then we use all of those answers. I said, how could you express this? And it's again, it's like a draft. How could you express this and give this back to others? For me, it's like to heal others, to give back to others, to support others, blah, 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 all those things, to whatever. Then I get them to do an expanded purpose. So put this in a purpose statement, but make it expanded. So just brain dump. So my purpose is, and just get a big paragraph. And then the final step is say this in 1 or 2 sentences. And then you get a refined version of it. So mine is to heal and raise consciousness.
Something I loved, and it links back to what you just said. I have it written down here somewhere from all my research today. Where is it? Okay, it was a quote from one of your posts that you shared. And this is the one I commented on. I'm like, that hits hard, bro. And I think it's related to kind of like what you're just explaining about purpose and everything you just explained. You've grown into someone who would have protected you as a child.
You become the person you needed when you're at your lowest.
That's fucking crazy because I've become what I needed then.
So your dad gifted you with a purpose. Just to open that back up.
Yeah, like a part of me almost doesn't even want to credit him, you know?
Yep.
And I've got a good relationship with him now. We're not like fucking tight, but we got a good relationship.
Yep. And that's the coping strategy. That's the avoidance, deflection, dissociation, whatever it is. And that's totally cool.
But no, it has. I would have been, completely different person. But I think what was important for me for my journey, if my mum never remarried and they're still together and I have my brother, like thank God she did, I wouldn't have become the person I am now if I just lived up spoiled and showered with love and with my grandparents and my mum. And I would have been fucking, who knows what it would have been. I wouldn't have been a good person. I needed to go through those, challenges and it did create blockages for me, but also built, some of my biggest attributes.
Yeah. And that's where it's like the pain, we were talking before, right at the start of the podcast, like the pain and the pleasure drivers at the start work until you get to like some hopefully level of success. And some people not, they get hit plateaus and they need to do more of the inner stuff. But then it's like your greatest drivers also become very big blocks as well. And for me, trauma is a gift once you open it. So not everyone chooses to open their gifts. I recommend open up your gifts so you stop resisting it, stop getting triggered by it, stop having the sabotaging patterns play out. But man, everyone's doing the best what they have. Everything that you've gone through has served you up until this moment. But Jack Delosa says this really well. What's gotten you to where you are won't get you to where you want to go.
100%.
So that's where it's time to, yes, you can go hardcore on more skills. But why don't we look underneath why you keep avoiding tough conversations? Why you keep shutting down when your partner says something, when you get anxious when you walk into rooms, when you whatever. Let's address those, and that will just unlock more of who you already are, the Statue of David. We're just chipping away more parts that aren't you, and all you're left with is the fullness of you.
Is there a common theme or common answer as to why people avoid uncomfortable conversations?
Yeah, it's I thought you were going to say something else then. Uncomfortable conversations. Yeah, it would just be it's a coping strategy. So it might be rejection. I look for the trait. So I try to get things into the 1-word or 2-word answer to what's the actual wound playing out.
Yeah.
And I haven't really commented too much on it, but it could be limiting beliefs as well. So there's the 3 main, I guess, I don't know how to categorize it. In a work that I do is limiting beliefs, trauma, which is what a lot of this conversation has been around, and emotional blocks. So that's very Joe Dispenza if you've gone down his rabbit hole and like your mental and emotional body and what like you attract what you put out type of thing. That's very getting even more woo-woo. That's probably my least strength. The trauma is definitely my strongest. So I just went then, it will either be a limiting belief, like I'm not accepted, I'm not enough to be here, I hate this person, or there'll be a rejection wound, an acceptance wound, a invalidation wound. There'll be something playing out. And remember, past hurt creates future fear. I've been rejected before. I've now come in to have a conversation. I want to have a tough conversation with my partner, but I don't want to get rejected from her, so I won't do it.
Yeah.
So it's something playing out. I would have to tune in and ask the questions. The thing that for people who have done some work, one of the things that I'm still getting better at as well is discerning is this a limiting belief or is this a trauma? They can be the same thing though, because from my experience so far, I haven't worked with every human, but from what I found, every trauma you will have beliefs off the back end of it, which will be limiting, but you can just have beliefs that just don't serve you. Like it might not have been traumatic around money, but you just grew up in a family where money was evil. It's not like you had this big moment in time when something was too much or not enough. It was just a belief you downloaded. So that's why I do address limiting beliefs by themselves. But I generally, if I could only do one process, it would be my balancing process where let's actually integrate the wound, because that will actually take care of a lot of the beliefs as well. But at some point, you probably have some beliefs that didn't come from trauma, didn't come from whatever. I just believe this to be true, and it's not true.
So those limiting beliefs, are they exactly the same thing as self-doubt, or are they slightly, they have distinctions?
Yeah, they great question. So there's not even though I had said like, here's the answer to some problems, there can be more than one answer. For example, I said self-doubt or low self-worth is feedback that you're not prioritizing your values. That is true. But what if you also have a belief on top of that you're not enough? What if you also have a rejection wound that's playing out? So you can have different layers to it. That's why I start with values first, because you can do all the shit, but that's why I start with that first. So I haven't said this on the podcast before, but my flow of how I work with clients, I tune into number one, values. Okay. Like if they're doubting themselves, beating themselves up, what is playing out? Okay. Are they trying to be themselves or are they trying to be someone else? Okay. They're being themselves. Great. Okay. Is this a belief playing out? I'd have to ask questions to get clear on that. I'd say, okay, what specifically has triggered you? Or I told myself this. Okay. It's a belief. Okay. Like with you for dad, what's the one thing? And we got it, one unworthy, bang. Okay. It's an unworthy wound. Or this is where I am a practical guy. If you're like unconfident because you don't know how to build a fucking landing page because you just don't know what you're doing and you're sitting on a screen just overwhelmed, not knowing what to do, maybe you just don't know what the fuck you're doing. So that's where I am practical too. As much as I want to do the inner work and heal and process and do all that shit, I'm also super practical. Like maybe you're just unconfident because you've never done it before. So go practice. Like how many videos I've posted, I've got, I think, 5,400 posts on Instagram, and I've done heaps on Facebook, heaps on TikTok, heaps of podcasts. I've done 300 episodes of my own podcast.
Your own podcast.
So it's like I've done a ton of talking on camera. So yes, even at my first podcast, was I as confident as I am now talking? Absolutely fucking not. Even though I'm still doing my values, I probably have done a lot of healing since then. I definitely have. But a bigger part of it is just actually practicing. So sometimes it is actually a practical answer.
See, the reason these conversations is good and absolutely like, there's more than one right answer, or there's more than one thing that it could be. But often we have that narrow vision of this is related to that, and you've been on that, train of thought for the last, 3 years, and you're not getting anywhere. Maybe for it's not that. Maybe for you it is in alignment with your values, rather than like for me, yeah. So I think that's really, really good, context around how people can think about it. Now, on the flip side of limiting beliefs, is like people that are really self-confident, right? And have a lot of self-belief. From your, experience working with people, where do you think, or what is like one of the biggest driving factors towards someone that does have a lot of self-confidence or self-belief and someone that might not be there yet?
To be honest, copy and paste my last answer. I would say the person that's I'll use the baby example again. I've never met a baby who lacked confidence. Like a baby, when you're born, you're most authentic and you listen most to your intuition. So you'll speak your truth. If you are hungry and you're a baby, are you going to, I don't want to upset someone. I'm going to keep to myself. No, you're going to fucking cry and say, fucking feed me. It's like, so you speak your truth and you're authentic, but then we download. So I say we're born limitless, but we're programmed out of it. It's the statue of David again. So we're born authentic, but then we pick up all these layers that aren't us. So I'm trying to answer it from a different angle, but again, get the person, I would say the person that's been authentically confident, because you have performance confidence and you have authentic confidence. Performance is like you're acting. I can act confident. Like I used to do that a lot. So there's, say, authentically confident. I would say that person is being themselves. I'd say they've addressed a lot of their limits and beliefs. They've addressed a lot of healing, and they've probably practiced it before. So it's honestly the same answer, just showing up differently. But the performance versus authentic confidence is something.
I think that's a big one. And like the self-awareness to realize which one are you.
Yeah. And I've been both. Like, I feel very authentic right now, but I've done podcasts where I'm like, got a Tony Robbins, change my state. Okay, let's go. Versus like, I'm just here. Like you do a great job of connecting with people. That's a gift of yours.
Yep, thank you.
So yeah, tune into that. But yeah. And you once you've done a level of growth, like you can feel it, right?
100%.
You're like, this guy's full of shit. I know you're wearing a mask right now. You're wearing a persona, and that's okay. I do that too in times. But yeah, it's like I was at this is really weird. The flight down here, like I saw the air hostess and air host person, and he was like I was in the exit row. And you know how they do a little present, hey, are you prepared to whatever? And he was telling us this. And like, I was looking at his eyes. Like, he looked like he was about to fucking cry. I just wanted to say, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Like, I could tell he was performing because he's at work job. I'm like, bro, like I can
see
like,
straight through it
it's like, he had
right?
like tear in his eye. I'm like, you're right, man. Like, what's going on? Like, but anyways, I could see that. I could feel that. I just saw it straight away.
We're talking off right before we hit record. And this is a theme that's come up with many different people in different podcasts. But again, like, and you're another person, and maybe shared just like a brief, your thoughts around like what I said to you is like connecting to and being able to show up as your full authentic self and not try and be anything more, anything less is your superpower.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
When what you do is the fullest expression of who you are, you will do your life's best work.
because no one else can replicate you, right? And like people, like you won't be everyone's cup of tea,
100%.
but people will leave that feeling like that person is something, right? That person has that energy, and you're not going to fit in with everyone. You shouldn't try and please everyone, but you'd rather have that energy around you where people like that's individual right there.
You'll like this one. So the people that are attracted to you the most, your closest friends that you connect with the most, and your best clients will have the most amount of alignment with your core wound. So you have an unworthy wound, and obviously I could ask questions, find the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So people that have a similar unworthy wound would love you.
Interesting.
So, but by showing up authentically, and you don't have to, I'm going to go display my own unworthy wound. You don't have that. Just being yourself, just playing that out. And energetically, it's going to be, I don't know what it is. I just like this guy. There'll be a piece of like the clients that love me the most have rejection wounds.
Yep.
They're like, they're not enough. They've been hurt before. I'm just the reflection of that. And they're like, there's just something about this guy. I just like him. So I'm just being myself. So yeah.
One of the things that I've said this is back from high school days, when we talk about some of our darker sides, some of the things that have really always just had an ability to grind my gears is stupidity and incompetence because of the unworthy.
Yep.
You know? Yep. And that's before I even fucking knew anything about growth or doing the work. And that's been showing up a lot. Just
for mental note for yourself, I'd probably jot that down. You have you can do stupidity, so you can do a process on that. So I'll do that. And what was that? Incompetence.
Competent. What's it's like when just like there's no excuse to not get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, probably, yeah. I would personally do a process on that because again, like when people are being stupid, it will trigger you. Yeah. when you feel like you've been stupid, you'll shame yourself for it. So it's the same thing. It just plays out everywhere. And you, ironically, because your RAS is trying not to look for it, you'll find people being stupid.
Yeah. 100%. Let's talk relationships. There's something like some of your best work in terms of your content is around relationships as well. So I think like whether you're in a relationship or you're not, you need to know this stuff because next time you will be, as you said, the situation where you will be triggered the most is in your intimate relationships because they see all sides of you. And I love the quote that you mentioned, whereas you will, and you say it the proper way because I butcher it. You keep finding the situations, the people will come into your life to show you the trauma that you need to heal and overcome, right?
Yeah, perfect. You will attract people and circumstances to reveal where you haven't healed.
Could you explain that just in a way for someone to try and understand that?
Yeah, for sure. It's just literally the next step of what I went through at the start, but I'll just do a quick summary. So a trauma moment in time, something was too much and not enough. It's one word. I'll just use the unworthy one for you because you're here. So unworthy, moment in time, something was too much and not enough. Then you have a fight or flight response, your RAS, your reticular activating system is I want to avoid this because this is painful and I don't want this anymore because past hurt creates future fear. The ego, one of the traits of the ego, it wants to avoid pain. So I don't want to be unworthy because it was painful, okay? So your RAS is trying to not look for a yellow bus. I'm trying to not look for being unworthy. What you're doing for is energetically looking for it. So you will attract that in your intimate relationships to then mirror that back to you to say, hey, motherfucker, you've got a wound here. Let's heal through it together. So you are attracting people and circumstances to reveal the part of you haven't healed through yet.
That's a really good explanation. Now, where I wanted to go with this as well, there's a lot of great things on relationships, but one of the things that stood out that I think is really cool if we could explain and dive into is your 3 like relationship stages, right?
Yep.
First one really obvious, the honeymoon stage.
Yep.
Pretty self-explanatory, but how would you explain the honeymoon stage?
It's just the chemistry. It's the love, sex, spark, electricity.
So everything comes easy, right?
It's when people pedestal their partner, and it's when you show the parts of you that you love the most, but you hide the parts, the wounds that you don't want to show them.
And number 2 is?
I call it the triggered stage.
It's
a
right?
self-growth, self-development stage. So it's when, because whatever life is balanced, if you put someone on a pedestal, you eventually put them in the pit to balance them out. So you will eventually.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, think of someone who you pedestaled at one point in your life, and then eventually you're going to pit them, or vice versa. You pitted your dad, you eventually, or you might have had moments already where you've pedestaled him to bring him back into balance. So whoever you pedestal, you pit. Whatever you pit, you pedestal. So
I think in relationships, it's probably a really good example of that, right?
So honeymoon period is a perfect example. So honeymoon period, you're going on a pedestal and you're only seeing some parts to them. You're not seeing the other sides to them. And then you go to the stage 2, which is called the triggered stage, where you see the other sides to who they are and you take them off the pedestal and you're like, holy fuck, look at all these skeletons in the closet. They fucking snore. They've got a wart here. They've got all these things. And you see these things that you don't like. They were always there. You just didn't see them. You were pedestaling them and you only seen some parts of them. So that's the part where you push each other's buttons, you reveal each other's wounds, you trigger each other, you have arguments. And most people go between stage 1 and 2 over and over again because they don't learn the lesson that this is normal. You can't have a relationship without getting through this. Well, you can have a shitty relationship without going through this. To have a conscious, connected, deep, intimate relationship, there's no way around this. You have to go through this. It's like that. Can't go over it, can't go under it, got to go through it. So you got to go through this shit. So hopefully get to stage 3, which conscious growth stage, where you guys are both aware, you both have shit to work on. You're both going to show that to each other and reveal that to each other. And with the right energy, I can share a vulnerable story soon, is with the right energy, awareness, and tools, you get to help each other heal more than anyone else. With the right tools and awareness, you will heal more in your relationship more than anyone else. Now, at the start, if you're new to self-growth, don't say, okay, you're my therapist to your partner. You don't say that. They're just going to be the catalyst to reveal it for you. And then you might go to a therapist or a coach to help you work through it. But eventually you get to a point where you guys can just do it on each other. Like, so vulnerably, I had something that came up for me and my partner literally Saturday. I had something, I'd lied to my partner and I was hiding it from her. So I'd done something that I wasn't proud of and I was lying. I lied to her about it and I hid it from her. And I'm quite in tune now and I'm becoming more and more in tune with especially my emotion, because all feelings are feedback. And we're just watching a movie. We're watching The Greatest Showman. I love that movie. And we're just watching it. And I thought of it. I thought of the thing I was lying to her about. And I felt shit. I felt anxious. I literally had to go take a shit. I literally went to the bathroom to take a shit because my digestive system came online. So I felt anxious and I'm like, I know what it is. I don't want to do it though. I don't want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
I want to avoid it. It's painful. This is shit. I don't want to have this. I literally counted down from 3 in my head. I'm like 3, 2, 1, pause the movie. Babe, I got to share something with you. And I just started crying straight away. There was a lot of shame come up through that. And my beautiful wife, and she just did her NLP. She's done a lot of healing lately. We just did our breathwork training together. And she just held so much space. She obviously saw the pain from me. Like I haven't released that much. Fuck. It might've been the biggest one, but it was a lot. Like I release tears and snot. I literally physically release it like that. And I was just like, I could barely breathe. I was like to talk, and she held space for me. She saw me because shame disappears with awareness. When you actually get seen in what you have shame for and actually be loved for who you are, because that's what we want, right? Yep. But you shame yourself for it, and it's all the stories and shit growing up. And like to see me in it, to witness me in it, and to acknowledge me. Obviously there was some hurt there, and she said, babe, like honestly, I am very hurt. She cried a bit as well. And we're going to work through this, but I just want to say thank you for being open. Thank you for being sharing with me. What else do you have in you? She's like, what else? Like, if you're bringing it up, let's get it out. What else you got? I'm like, honestly, there's nothing else. And like, there's something else. There's something. And we just got it all out. And you don't do that anywhere else but a relationship. You can go to a therapist and do that, of course. And they might be that person who can hold the space for you if your partner's not up to that level yet. But like what I'm sharing now, to be able to have that point where it's going to come up. Like that feeling just came up, and I could have suppressed it because I held it away from her for about a week. So it was lying to her for about a week with it. And I said, the more I kick this down the road, the worse it gets. And I was literally in my head, I'm like, this is going to fuck our intimacy. This is going to fuck our parenting. This is going to fuck business. I'm like, fuck this. 3, 2, 1, let's go and do it. So that's an example.
Most people would not do that. 99% of people would avoid.
It was shit, man. I've had 3 of those in our relationship where I hid something from her, and all 3 of them were like the hardest conversations. I've fired people in COVID. When COVID happened, I had to fire 15 people in one day. Like that was pretty shit. But these 3, one was at the start of our relationship, one was a couple of months ago, and one was literally on Sunday, like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
Or Saturday, sorry. They're the hardest, man, because it's literally just stepping right into your shame. So there's an invitation for you guys. Go do it.
Is there anything you can share? Because obviously it takes a lot of courage to do that. Is it just the awareness that this is for the best? And like you said, it'll bleed into intimacy, into all aspects of our relationship if you don't?
Your relationship, and even to go a layer deeper, sex as well, and intimacy is a great measuring tool and a barometer for where you are at in life. But it just shows up. Like if you've got, like in that week where I was hiding it for her, like we were more snappy with each other. We were more resistant to each other. We weren't as connected as we were. We weren't making love to the degree that we were. Like it shows up, and I know it. Like I'm aware enough.
And does she know it?
She knows it too. And she's like, I felt you were off for a week or 2. And I said, oh, this is why. You found out why. So like once you know, and it's like, and for people listening, like I'd say most people have something they're hiding or something they want to speak into or something that they're shaming themselves for. It's like that energetically is showing up right now. It will show up. I think I actually spoke about this with Nick on the podcast today, but like your level of depth of sex and intimacy is such a great measuring stick for where you're at emotionally with your relationship, with life, with business, with your purpose. So yeah, if you're in your head a lot, if you're very fidgety, if you struggle to connect with your body, there's probably something there. So back to what I said a while ago, the degree that you resist reality is the degree that you suffer. I had resistance there. So I could suppress it and just hold on to that resistance and let it fuck my life up for a little bit more. I'd say, fuck it, let's just get it out. Let's do it. And it took us, I think, an hour and a half, and it was shit. I hadn't released that much in a while. I get snotty. I had a light bulb on Saturday. It's like I release emotions physically through snot. So a bit of a weird one. So I literally had like these pile of tissues that were just like gross stuff. So that was quite funny. But yeah.
So on that point about intimacy and connection, I know a lot of your content you've shared over this year is around that. What are some of the things, I don't know if you've got exercises or obviously just honesty and openness and communication. What are some of the things that people can do to improve their intimacy, connection, and sex in relationships?
Yep. So heaps of tips. So firstly, kind of based on what I was just talking about, picture there's a channel between your heart and your partner's heart, and picture the channel being clean or messy or like clogged. Now, the cleaner you keep that channel, the more connected, love, open, surrendering, receiving, and giving you're going to be to each other. What clogs the channel are things like not staying true to your word, lying, resisting, being mean to each other. So there's things that are clogging the channel. So good, once you understand now what I've just said, just ask yourself, what's clogging the channel right now between you and your partner, and get them to answer the same thing. Or you said you were going to walk the dogs and you didn't do it. You said you take the rubbish out, you didn't do it. It was my birthday, you didn't say anything about it. You introduced me to my friends and you were quite rude, or you didn't introduce me to your friends or something. Like there'll be all these little death of a thousand cut things.
That often go unsaid.
Yeah, unsaid. And that suppresses, and then that energetically shows up in the bedroom. So clear the channel. So first step, clear the channel. So whatever that may be, small, little, and it doesn't matter. Even the small ones, they add up. So clear the channel. Number 2, take orgasm off. This is real practical. So take orgasm off stop focusing on the orgasm. Stop focusing on that's the finish line. Focus on the connection and presence with each other. Doing breath work beforehand is really powerful. So actually slowing down. So there's a thing called a yam position. So you pretty much it's kind of like generally man will sit down and then woman will sit on top of man, or man will sit on top of man. And you're kind of like straddling each other, but you're just sitting on each other. So you're kind of like in a yoga position or just sitting cross-legged on top of each other, and putting your hand on each other's hearts and just breathing together and slowing down your nervous system, because sympathetic nervous system shuts off your blood flow to your genitals. So if you are struggling as a man to get hard, get into your parasympathetic nervous system, relax more. Because if you're tense and you're trying to...
You're in your head.
You're in your head. In your head, you're dead. Tony 101. So get out of your head, get into your body. How do you do that? Connect with your partner, clear the channel, slow down your breath. So just really slow box breathing, connecting with each other, hand on heart, and seeing each other. Eye gazing is really powerful. It's I noticed with you, because you've got the ADHD too, like your eyes go all over the place. So actually connecting with someone and seeing someone into their eyes, it's one of the fastest way to drop you into your parasympathetic, into your relaxing nervous system.
What is this? There's like however many seconds of it can do that, right?
Yeah, I don't know that number,
yeah,
but
I've heard that before as well.
I don't know the actual measurements and the science behind it, but I know it happens. Yeah. So it's like just literally eye gazing with each other, seeing each other, being seen. I don't know what it is actually. I'm looking at your eyes now. So I don't know what the actual science behind it is, but I know it happens. So breath work, slowing things down, clearing up the channel, speaking into each other's desires, because a lot of, especially for men, like you get caught up with, I have to be performance. And I know a lot of women have the same thing. It's like, actually ask your partner, what do you desire in the bedroom? Like what actually turns you on? What feels good? What feels shit? It's like, and I took it as a big ego hit when we first started actually having this conversation. She's like, oh, I don't like when you do that. I'm like, oh, I thought you loved that. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm shit. I'm not enough. All the beliefs come up, right? So like actually having honest, vulnerable conversations, just open. Say, hey babe, like this feels really good. This doesn't feel so good. Cool. Can we do this? Can we introduce toys? Can we just speak into your desires? Most people just get.
A lot of people feel uncomfortable. They'll tighten up, right?
I know that's the tough conversation. That's rejection. I know there'll be other wounds that play out in that, but again, that's resistance. Lean into the resistance. They'll be the main ones. The specific ones for men, I'm obviously being a man, I know a little bit more about compared to the women. I've done a sexual mastery program with Kim and Army. I literally dropped her name on the last podcast. So graphic for you, but the harder a man can get is a measurement of how hard you get and how much you penetrate your woman or your partner is a measuring stick of how much you penetrate life. So pretend your business was turned into shit.
Yeah.
You're working at Macca's, nothing at Macca's, but say you're working at a job you fucking hated and you're doing nothing with it. How fucking rock hard are you going to get in the bedroom? About I'm the man, I want to fucking dominate you. No. So, and I'm not saying like objectively that's a big broad gap. It's not about the money and the measure of success. It's you showing up in your fullness, showing up and fucking penetrating life with your gift, living out your purpose, being the greatest expression of who you are. So I know those parts for a man. I don't know that much about the women side of things because obviously not being a woman myself. So, for women, from what I do know, I'm just sort of taking off stuff I've learned from podcasts, is learning just to connect more with your body and be more sensual, lean more into your feminine if you want to. You do have masculine and feminine roles with different genders as well. But if you're a more feminine-led woman or you've got a feminine core to yourself, lean more into things that help you drop into your feminine, whether it's dancing, painting, being in nature, being with the girls, like do things that allow you to be more feminine if that's what you want in the bedroom. If you want to be more masculine, do things that allow you to be a bit more masculine. That's probably all the tips I got for you for now.
One thing I found really interesting, I said I was listening to that podcast you did with, you say his name's Travis, the Technician podcast. I heard like you guys speaking about things. Obviously I've heard the words before, but I've never really like had a conversation around it. Around like there's healthy and unhealthy masculine and feminine, but dark masculine.
Yep.
Like what is like dark masculine? And it was kind of a new
That's cool.
world for me. Yeah.
There's a book I would read. Sorry, just lost my voice. King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. That's a really good book. So 2 masculinity books is The Way of the Superior Man, David Data.
I've got that. I've read the first chapter.
Get back into it. So he talks about like put your purpose before your relationship. That kind of ties into what I was talking about. So The Way of the Superior Man is a great book. And King, Warrior, Magician, Lover is another great book. And also another book I just reread is The Enlightened Sex Manual. And that's about, and that's David Dieter as well. So this is not like my main thing I coach about. So I'll be a bit jittery with the way I teach this. So there's dark masculine, light masculine, dark feminine, light feminine. Dark is not bad. But the thing is we actually shame a lot of the dark traits, generally speaking, with humanity. So like the penetrative warrior that is there, like say back in the day, we're in a village and some people come in to kill our families. The dark masculine warrior wants to step the fuck up and protect the family, right? Or do you want to be so enlightened and grateful? Oh, it's all right. Go kill our families. No, you want to step up and be that dominant, penetrative, controlling killer that a man has within them.
Yeah.
But most people shame that part of men these days. It's bad.
Yeah. They would have been celebrated before.
So, but then there's also, there's dark, light, both masculine and feminine, but then there's unhealthy and unhealthy expressions of them. Because the unhealthy expression of the dark is your tyrannical leaders where they control everyone and they manipulate people. So that's dark masculine in an unhealed, unhealthy way. So it's like the unhealed boy and the unhealed man. So there's both expressions in all ways and facets, and there's a healthy and an unhealthy way of it. Like the light feminine is like you've got to see present nature, loving, motherly energy, and your penetrative dark feminine is like a woman that knows what the fuck she wants and she's firm with it and she sets boundaries and she knows her worth and she's firm. That's not unhealthy, but then you could have the dark, unhealthy feminine, which is your manipulating one. Same thing, same energy, but different expression of it. Yeah. So that's probably the degree that I know of this, by the way. But there's light and dark for both, but there's a healthy and unhealthy expression of both. Because like the light masculine, which is like you're more peaceful, surrender, present, more like your yogi style of people. But the unhealthy expression of that is a lazy bastard that does nothing with their life. They're pushover. They're living on mom's couch and they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's just the unhealthy expression of it. So it's not good nor bad. And please, especially for us ladies out there, please stop shaming the dark masculine. Because if you want men to be healthy men, they need the healthy expression of the dark masculine. But yeah, that's probably what I got to see.
So the book, obviously, what was the warrior?
King, Warrior, Magician, Lover.
Okay, yeah.
So that goes into that and the archetypes, and they talk about this. They've got this like pyramid, and it's like I've only read it once, but it's like the divine child and the tyrant child. And it's like, again, it's the same energies, just expressed in healthy or unhealthy ways. I've only read it once, so I can't teach it that well.
No, that's pretty interesting though. Yeah. And then obviously The Way of the Superior Man, that's been recommended to me, 100 times.
Yeah.
And I do really,
one day, right?
Yeah, no.
There's a hot tip. Man. If you want to, whatever you want to get better at or do more of or complete or whatever, link enough benefits to your top 3 values. So I'd say, how would your business get better? How would your connections get better? I don't know, maybe relationship. You've said that a couple of times. Have you got a partner?
Yeah.
So if relationships are high value, how will my business, I would say for you, I would say connections for you. I don't know you well enough to ask you, but I would have to ask you more questions. But just how will your values get better by you doing the thing you want to do, but you keep procrastinating?
Yeah, because I always prioritize, work, business, right?
So you'd say, how does your business get better by you reading this?
Yeah, I need to attach value to it. And then like once I integrate a new habit, if I see enough value in it, it's so easy for me to keep going.
Perfect.
But it's until I see the value of it, that's when it's like really shady for me. We'll start to wrap this up. Obviously we spoke about your new book's coming up. You've been in this space for, a number of years now. For those people that are following and or come across you after this and follow along, what does the next 12 months look like for you? What's Lewis got on his plate?
I've been thinking about it, but like not fully in depth. I spoke to my mentor literally yesterday and he said, just pretty much that question is like, hey, just tuning in just to let you know that start to think about what's next for you after the book. Cause it's literally, I've said no to everything besides the book. So like heaps of opportunity. Obviously this podcast is for the book. That was like one of the bigger reasons I wanted to come down here. So two things. I've got a conscious community, a school community, where I teach all of these. So values, purpose, mission, vision, healing. I have all the healing processes. I have planning. I have how to set boundaries. All of that's in there. I also have business, relationships, health, wealth, spirituality in there. So I want to keep building that because I want to help as many people as I can. It's cliche. My goal is 10 million. So that's the mission derived from my purpose. 10 million people to live a life that they love. For me, I want to do that. I want to have an online resource where anyone around the world, and it's only $49 a month. So I wanted to make it cheap enough where most people can get access to it. Like $50 a month, most people can afford that. Not everyone, but most people can. But then I also then want to do in-person events as well. So that's more like, obviously there'll be obviously a financial part of it, but it's more so like I fucking love it. It's so fun. Yeah. So once the book's done, it's going to be those two and just figuring out which one do I prioritize. I definitely don't have the business skills of yourself, so I might get some business help, but it's figuring out which one to prioritize. Because I literally just have me in a virtual assistant. That's all I have at the moment. So book for now, and then it'll be build up the community. I want to have like thousands of people in there, just like changing lives, helping people heal, find their values, do all that stuff. Then I want to run like 3-day immersive events where it's like you come in and we do all of that over 3 days, but I take you through live healing processes and shit like that because it's different, right? Having in person versus online. So I don't know which one's going to get the high priority. We
need to try both and see what you enjoy as well. See what gives you the right impact back to you at the same time.
So that's what I've been tuning into. Been the shower thoughts, hey, like what's next and what's going on. So it'd definitely be one or both of those. But yeah, haven't fully planned it out yet, but I've definitely been thinking about it.
And the book, do you know where it's going to be available? Is it on your website? Where's the best place that when it comes available?
I'm doing a launch for it, October 18th. Yep. So if you want to jump on the launch, I've got a $2,000 gift. Follow Tomosi of how he's structured his book launch. So you get a $2,000 gift for coming to the launch live. It'll be. I've got a book coach who's doing all this shit, so it'll be on my website, on my social medias. There'll be an audio version. I'm recording that at the moment. I'm gonna get home and keep recording that. That's fun. I've got an online resource as well, so I've actually got online resources to go through values. Not all of them. I've done like 70% of the processes from the book are online, just to make because some of them you don't need it, some of them you do need them. Not you don't need them. It's a lot. There's a way bigger difference having the online resources compared to just in a book. Like the purpose process, you can do that piece by piece, write down those questions. That's not online. But to do values, to do the healing processes, it is a lot more powerful to have those resources there. So there's free resources there where you can go to, which will be on my website. And there'll be audio, there'll be hard copies. And if you see my socials, obviously I'll blast it everywhere.
Yeah. Where's the best place to find you? What are you like? Just Lewis Huckstep?
Yeah.
What is it?
Probably Instagram. That's where I'm most active. Lewis Huckstep on Instagram. But I'm on all the platforms, but if you want me personally, go to Instagram.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for coming down. Thank you for what you gave me as well. That's definitely something to continue to explore. Definitely gave me goosebumps a couple of times and stuff. It made me think about things that I never could connect before, maybe because of being too logical.
Yep. That's cool.
And there's the overarching, positive perspective where it does it almost blindingly positive that doesn't let you see what's behind it because that'll allow you to unlock another level of good things. So
great awareness,
really appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Good luck with the book. I'm sure it'll do amazing things.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Cheers, brother. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode or you got something out of it, do yourself a favor, do me a favor, do your friends a favor and share this with them and they can come along on this journey with us. Thanks again and I'll see you next time.